Hello, and welcome again to Mitten Backstage. Today, we have the wonderful Elle Lively on the podcast. A lot of you might know Elle from her work with the Accidentals on tour, from her photography with other artists and bands around the Michigan music scene, from her work with the Michigan Music Alliance, Crooked Tree Creative. She does so many different things to help support the music community, and it was great to chat with her about her life and experiences in the Michigan music scene. If you enjoyed today's conversations and you want to support podcasts like this, you can head on over to patreon.com/Dutcher Snedeker. And there you can contribute at different levels to get early access to podcast episodes, exclusive live streams, and the ability to hire me as a consultant, instructor, or even a recording artist. Plus, you'll also get coupon codes to get discounted merch from Earth Radio and Blushing Monk. So thanks again for tuning in and checking out this episode. Feel free to give it a like or a follow or a subscribe, depending on whatever platform you're watching or listening this on. And share this with some friends. I'm sure they could benefit from these types of talks about the music industry in Michigan. Anyway, let's get right into the conversation with Elle Lively. It'll be nice to just have a few dozen episodes with people I see on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But,
So, yeah, you already know quite a bit about me. I feel like of anyone, you probably have the ability to ask more better questions because of that. So, I'm excited.
Yeah, well, and for those who might not know, I mean, some people have seen you, pop up with the B-side sessions or the Michigan Music
Mhm.
Alliance or the Accidentals or, just popping in and out. So I guess as it stands now that, we've all gone through at least a year of pandemic town, what are the things, because it's more than one thing.
Yeah.
What are the things that you're doing that, for people who might not know what you're up to in West Michigan?
Yeah. Well, they might know me from a few different avenues. The first of which goes way back. If you have any experience in the post-hardcore touring scene, you might have seen me around back in the early 2000 teens. And then from there, I started touring with the Accidentals, and I'm actually really excited to hop back on board with them for some live shows this summer. It's going to be a ton of fun. They're my favorites if I had favorites. And you might also recognize me from Crooked Tree Creative, where we worked together, and I do a consulting and artist development and coaching for artists of all different levels who are working on different types of projects. And then also the Michigan Music Alliance, which came alive in 2019. And we had a pretty interesting 2020. We were going to kind of take it slow and build all of our free music business educational programs, go with our collaboration over competition message, and build more community engagement kind of slowly. And then COVID happened, and it was like, well, we have this opportunity to really, open it up and jump ahead in our 5-year plan and really embrace the whole state instead of just the Grand Rapids area, and go fully virtual with the B-side sessions, which are those music business education sessions, and also launch the Michigan Artist Relief Fund. And I have to credit you, Dutcher, with the idea really for that, because you sent me a link for the very first fund in the nation. It was like March 15th or something like that. It was the day that all the schools in Michigan closed. You sent me the link for the Boston Artist Relief Fund, which was the first COVID-based artist relief fund in the nation to go live. And by Monday, I had ours set up, and we were the second. So you were the push there and the inspiration. So we closed applications for that. in the spring when funding was depleted and we were able to help a lot of people. Really excited about doing that all again this spring because obviously, as you know, the need is still there, and a lot of people are still in the same position. So we're hoping to make a dent in that, and we've got some really cool projects lined up to help raise awareness and funds for the Michigan Arts Relief Fund.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's, it's a testament like what it means to be involved in the music industry to you're not just like, oh, this is my favorite thing to do and that's the only thing. It's like you're taking some of the favorite aspects of what you like doing in the industry and applying it to different, groups or projects or, businesses or educational opportunities. So I think a
Exactly.
lot of people have at least from people who have seen you that that know we work together on stuff. They've approached me and been like, really impressed with like how hard you work and in the scene and how how you are really good at kind of getting people connected with some of the resources they need to think about like not just like coaching people from nothing, but like taking something that like, oh, you're already doing this, well, try and add this in, or you're already looking at this aspect of it, but why not try this thing? So I think there needs to be more people like that who aren't just thinking about music one dimensionally and can help like be a model for how to cross communicate between the different scenes or different artists or all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing to hear because that's the ultimate goal is well, a couple of things are the ultimate goal, right? So first off, I want to do everything that I can to kill the starving artist mentality in the music scene. I think that the words, I think Serena was the first one to say it, collaboration over competition is really the thing that can save us and make us all come through this okay. And whether that's working together on actual content or sharing knowledge and resources, I feel like that's the only way to build a bridge. Especially we have a big state with a really vibrant music scene and it's very spread out. So we've got Detroit, which is a hotbed. We've got up in Traverse City, we've got Marquette, we've got Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, all of these really strong music scenes. And there's such a gap between all of them just geographically. And part of the goal of the Michigan Music Alliance and part of the reason I started that was we want to make it one community. We want to wrap our arms around the whole thing and encourage people to go ahead and be part of the music community as a whole instead of looking at it in these small little geographical chunks. Overarching, what does it mean to be in the Michigan music community, and how do we work with each other? How do we treat each other? How do we grow together? And really asking those questions of artists and filling the needs. So the Michigan Music Alliance came about, and really the consulting that I do as well, because I mean, all of our friends are artists, right? And I'm constantly getting asked the same questions and things like that. And I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if there were just like a free resource where people could actually go learn these things and ask questions and just make it accessible and personal. And that's the goal of the Michigan Music Alliance, is just to make everything accessible and bridge the gap geographically and bring people together and open doors for collaborating. And I think we have an incredible music scene, and anything that we can do to level up and boost people up to a point where they're able to support themselves full time by diversifying their music career in different ways. That's the whole goal.
Yeah, and I've heard from artists outside of the state too that they you know they like the fact that I think sometimes we as artists take it a little bit for granted in Michigan that there is a lot of like you know or there are a lot of options to perform, in certain venues, breweries, certain restaurants, like there's enough tourism where people can get a lot of work in the summer. There's,
Yeah, we have a great infrastructure for live music.
yeah, and it's like, there's always, the little criticisms and little like, oh, it'd be great to improve this area, or we need to talk about this type of thing in the culture. But there's also a lot of uh a lot of things that Michigan just kind of does naturally that the rest of like the Midwest, from artists I've talked to in like Ohio or Chicago or Indiana, that they just know that Michigan's the kind of place you could dip in, you know, play a lot of these like lakeshore cities, or like, Grand Rapids or Kalamazoo, and you can feel like you're not stepping on, the toes of the other cities, like with some people with the radius clauses and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, they notice that there's options. There's also, a lot of musicians that kind of are, at least from some people I've heard, they prefer like trying to play gigs in Michigan with Michigan artists, just to, there's a certain,
Well, we have a strong, I mean, our whole community is such has such a rich history in the arts, and I think that that's part of the reason why so many independent artists live in Michigan, and industry professionals. If you actually think about it, it's incredibly staggering. Even here in Grand Haven, where I live, we've got world-class musicians, world-class engineers, tour managers, and they all live here because it's the scene, the strong scene, but it's also the quality of life that you get here. Being next to the lake, having beautiful summers, being able to go skiing, that's not something you can get everywhere. And I think that's really attractive for people who like to control their own destiny and be self-employed and be creative. And this just breeds an environment, when you're with other creative people and you're in such a beautiful spot in nature, but also you've got these amazing big cities like Detroit with so much rich history and opportunity to create new things. Um, it's a staggering amount of artists that live here for such a, interesting little state. It's really crazy to me, and it's fun to ask people, why don't you live in Nashville? Why don't you live in New York or LA? And they're like, well, I can do everything I can do there right here, but I get to go sit on the beach. So it's really interesting to me.
yeah. And I feel like with, I've seen a lot of my friends, who, you know, might have had their education here and they've moved out to some of the bigger music cities. They've, they've also kind of reevaluated with the pandemic, like, okay, what happens if nothing is like available to me? Like, what, like, if every shop is closed, if, people can't gather to perform, like, what is my quality of life? Like, do I just want to, walk around the city and like go to a park, or and then like do stuff remotely? Is that the only thing that can afford, an opportunity? Like, I've seen people like move out of, these bigger cities
Yeah.
and look for places. Some of them have moved back to Michigan. Some of them, moved to other like, you know, cities and other scenes, just because of the whole quality of life. Um, which,
That's like a silver lining to the pandemic. I mean, really, if you look at it, I think there are so many that we could focus on, those positive silver linings about it instead of the really disappointing and heartbreaking attributes. There are so many people who, because of the virtual space that's been created due to the pandemic, have the ability to live anywhere they want now. And people are going home or going further out or spending less on rent in a big city, and going where they want to be. And I think that's one really cool thing about it because, for musicians, there's been less opportunity in the virtual space, I think, than there has been up until this year. Like it really busted wide open in 2020 and created a lot of, new technology and opportunities, and just different ways to think about how we interact with each other. and contribute to different things. It's interesting to see what will happen this year, because I think there are a lot of great things about how we've operated during the pandemic that I know I personally will keep doing, just because it's improved my quality of life.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's put, a lot of focus on what I, like if, the industry is quote unquote shut down, like in the sense of you can't really do conventional touring, you can't do a lot of normal shows indoors. A lot of the things that people look at for like wanting to get into the music industry of like, oh, I want to perform, I want to, be in a bigger group, or I want to tour or whatever, and to have all of that taken away, and then to see like, oh, okay, I still naturally gravitate towards like finding a way to offer my skills and services to help the community. Also trying to, not just see myself as a performer, with 2 performing degrees, but seeing what I can do with the knowledge and skills that I've built, and how I naturally try to apply them to like, oh, let's try this new medium or new technology.
Yeah, it's forced you to diversify, right?
Yeah, because it's always been the issue with issue, I guess, with going to school and every year, like, from my undergrad through my master's, it's just kind of like, oh, you're getting a performance degree. Like, what are you gonna do with that? And it's like, I don't know.
Perform.
I'm gonna perform really well, and then we'll, start branching out and doing other stuff. Like, what did like you're teaching? Like, you got a performance degree. Like, it's funny that like I feel like there's already like, oh, you're getting a music degree or art degree. What are you going to do with that? And then like the subgroup is like, oh, okay, you're not doing like a music ed or music tech or like,
Hmm.
some service that's like makes sense, like a specialized skill. But um, it's like performing is also a specialized skill. Like people
Yeah.
live musicians for certain things that they normally don't think about unless you only want to have, iPhones and like house music through a PA the rest of your life. But yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been, you mentioned it a little bit before we started. You're working on, a few different projects and a few different things. I know
Yeah.
one thing I mentioned to some of the people that had tuned into my, weekly keyboard streams yesterday was the Spread the Music Festival.
Yeah.
We're in year 2 of that.
Yeah. So last year, after we launched the fund, like the next 2 weeks after, the weekend after, I was like, oh, well, let's do like a streamathon type thing and get a bunch of different people involved and like just raise awareness and money for the Artist Relief Fund. So we grabbed a bunch of people, and you played, and so many other people all around the state. We did, it ended up being 4 days. And we did Spread the Music online virtual festival and raised $40,000 all told through that period for the Michigan Arts Relief Fund. And it was really cool. And then this year we're kind of in the same boat. So it's like, well, after seeing how well received that was last year, and people kind of getting excited about playing again and stuff like that, I was like, we got to do it again. I mean, it's kind of something that I think we'll probably continue doing. And it had to be extended to 5 days this year. We have over, let's see, we have over 250 people involved now from all over the state, like all the way up in the UP, all the way everywhere, all different genres, um, all kinds of different bands, solo artists. We're also really excited that Bliss Fest Music Organization and Crooked Tree Art Center, 20 Front Street in Lake Orion, Seven Steps Up in Spring Lake, and the Listening Room in Grand Rapids all partnered with us to become official venues. So they're actually bringing small groups of artists in to perform from their stages and following COVID protocols. And So we have something special happening each night at a venue around the state that people can tune into, in addition to all of the live performances from home. So from 10 a.m. to like 11 p.m. for 5 days straight, you've got nothing but constant music live on our Facebook page. And then we have two headliners we're really excited about. Brian Vander Ark from the Verve Pipe has done amazing things to help put Michigan music on the map, and he's so committed to supporting the scene here, especially in Grand Rapids. And we're really excited that he's going to be closing out Spread the Music this year on Sunday night. And we're also excited to have the Accidentals on Friday. They're releasing new music that day with a new music video, and they're gonna give us a peek of that music video, release that right before they go live on Friday night. So we're really excited about all of the performers involved, and that full lineup and poster will be published on March 8th. And then the festival is March 24th through 28th.
Nice. Yeah, it's great to see that it, like, last year a thing that, was partially out of necessity, like, oh, we want to raise money for this fund that's, now created to help support artists. Now it's a way for people who, and I guess venues too now, who have adjusted to these new conditions. They have a way to, like, come together and celebrate the community. And,
Yeah.
and the name, it fits with, like, oh, like pandemic spread.
Yeah, it's kind of a joke at first, but it ended up working out quite well. And
Yeah.
we're all about building common threads. And here are hundreds of artists who maybe wouldn't have even known who each other were, who are now checking each other out. I know last year, some people heard each other for the first time, and collaborations were built, and new fans were built. And to see the venues coming together has been really cool as well. I mean, we have so many stellar venues in Michigan, and it blows my mind that they are just hanging on for dear life right now. And I mean, we have to do what we can to protect them, and they're really at the core of what we're doing as far as live performance in the Michigan music scene. So we've been encouraging people to really reach out to your local venues and support the live streams they're doing.
Yeah, and those venues mentioned too are, like, some of the places that stand out to me as a, not just a performer, but also, like, the places I would check to see what shows are going on. Like, I think of, Seven Steps Up. I remember, like, being bummed I couldn't go see, was it Scott Mulvihill, who's, like,
Mm-hmm.
a stellar
Yeah.
performer, bassist person. This was, a few years ago, but then, like, to see, my friends in a more intimate jazz experience trio thing, be able to have a space that, like, kind of caters to, um, listeners who don't mind, like, sitting down, relaxing, like, kind of an opposite of, like, being on a stage where you're competing with the room,
Yeah.
rather than,
Exactly. The thread in common is all of the venues that I mentioned are listening rooms, essentially. And the people who own and operate them are some of my favorite people. Like, I mean, like Kevin at 20 Front Street, Michelle and Gary at Seven Steps Up. Quinn Matthews is like one of the most salt of the earth humans I've ever met. And all of these people just are so supportive of music in their community, and not only bringing cool stuff in from out of state, but they really do keep a finger on the pulse of the Michigan music scene and give people opportunities. And I think that's something where, like, I will always want to work with those venues just because of that. They really understand their role in the community and use it to lift artists up.
Yeah, it's good to have, the people that, that not only create a good experience for audiences, but, like, really care about, when they book an artist, they
Mm-hmm.
come into the space and they feel like,
They take care of you and they make you feel welcome. And
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many elements about performing at, like 20 Front Street, for example. You walk in and it's automatically like a big breath of fresh air just because of the way it's set up, and it's artist focused. You don't have to compete with, the beer being poured in the back or something. It's really unique, and I think that translates really well to a live stream. All of these venues have been doing killer live streams, and we're really excited to see what what happens with those singer songwriters in the round, because some of them haven't met each other before, and some of them are great friends. So it's going to be really fun to see new people interact with each other, and I'm excited for those connections to be made. And then Bliss Fest is putting on a killer showcase in partnership with Crooked Tree Art Center up in Petoskey, which is actually my hometown. So that was really cool to have them reach out to us and jump on board, because I actually went to Crooked Tree Art Center, oh my God, like my whole childhood. That's where I learned to play violin when I was 5 years old. And to see it kind of come full circle, where now these artists in Northern Michigan that I looked up to when I was little, and who are just continuing to take over the scene there, um, are going live from that stage with Blissfest. I think that's really special. That was a fun moment for me while I was planning this, to see that kind of circle back around.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, spread the music. It's something that definitely fits you know, a theme of how a festival can, you know, like years down the road, it can still be something that's, virtual
Sustainable and
or more, yeah, more involved with venue. Like there's
yeah.
ways to like, continue to build on it. And I've personally enjoyed some of the, you know, uh, being in the virtual aspect. It saves so much time.
Yeah, it really does. And I think that's something, as we continue to bring back live performance in a safe way, I could see next year, my vision for it is to get more venues involved, and basically go live from a different venue around the state each day. And so I can see that really transitioning into something cool. And it'll be really interesting to see what that turns into as more people get involved. We have a project manager this year, and we have a new board as well. We've added a lot of board members. So April, from the other side of Third Coast over there, has been our project manager for this, and like she has done an absolutely incredible job. I don't know what I would do without her. And then our board members have really stepped up to the plate and helped make all of this happen too. And so we have some heavy hitters in the Michigan music scene on the board now, and I'm excited to see all of those committees and stuff grow as well, so we can spread our efforts more and connect people around the state.
Yeah, it was cool seeing some of those updates of the new board members, just seeing, people that I've I've come to know as like, I've met them doing one thing or seeing them doing one thing, and then to just see all of, the knowledge or the skill or the experience they bring to the table.
Yeah.
That's just, it's a huge asset for people who even just to have a list of people that are like, like this person did this type of work in New
Yeah.
York forever, and then they took all that
I mean,
experience.
reading the bios on our board members is crazy. I'm like, I'm not qualified to be here. Like Shane Germain from WYCE. Like, what the hell? Like, I didn't know half of those things about him when I reached out to him, and I was like, holy crap, man, you're sitting in Grand Rapids. That's so cool. Or like Chris from Gunner and the Grizzly Boys. Obviously, he's a phenomenal guitar player. And then I found out he was an entertainment lawyer, and I was like, that's cool. And then I listened to him talk about what he does, and it was like, I mean, he's one of the smartest people I think I've ever met. but like the way that he is able to present that to artists, because he has both sides of the coin, is, I think, absolutely what the music scene needs. And more people like that who have a foot in both worlds. Michelle Hanks, who owns Seven Steps Up, she is a venue owner and she's an accountant, and she gets both aspects of, being a touring musician, and people who are multifaceted like that are, I think, absolutely incredible resources for artists in the area. And it's been fun to identify more of them and bring them on board.
Yeah, because I was always drawn to people, whether they were like in Michigan or just people that I would listen to or, watch videos on YouTube or something, just to see like people who embrace being multifaceted in a way that elevates like their entire, like what they bring to the table, rather than just
Mm-hmm.
like being too specialized in one thing and then not
Yeah.
having, like, I think of even a simple thing. I was talking with Rufus Ferguson on my other podcast, Life is a Piano, and we were talking about music academia and how like neither of us in any of our collegiate experience, any of our extracurricular stuff, like none of it was geared towards surviving outside of academia. It was just like
Mm-hmm.
getting you used to, like, you're going to get a certain degree, and if you get a master's, you're a good candidate for a collegiate job. And it's like, I I know at some point I'll probably be in a college, but it to go right from like a very slanted like experience with the music industry into academia trying to teach people doesn't
Yeah.
feel good, because there's so much that is left out in pursuit of preserving art or preserving how people play, which is fine, but people also need to know like even just basic things about social media or
Yeah.
marketing or
There are a lot of holes and a lot of gaps, and that's, one of the reasons that Michigan Music Alliance is doing what we're doing, is to try to bridge those for people. And everyone has such a unique path to get where they are. I mean, like, I've done so many different jobs and things and had so many different experiences. Um, and sometimes it's like you look at it and it's like, how does this make sense together? Like, it doesn't, on paper. And then something new will happen and be like, oh man, I'm really glad I knew that or had that experience or did that stupid job that I really hated. Because it all kind of does connect together. And when that happens, it does feel really, really good. And it's like everything does happen for a reason and does matter. And yeah, it's really interesting to see those different things pop up.
yeah, because it even with three uncles who on my dad's side who are all musicians of they've all at least done their masters. Two of them did their doctorates. One of them's
Mm-hmm.
a college professor. One of them's a composer, cellist, jazz pianist, recording engineer,
Yeah.
like symphony oboe player for the third uncle. And it's like they have their main focuses, but they also have a lot of like other projects and skills and things
Yeah.
they pour into, rather than you know just being content with like, okay, I got my one thing.
Yeah. See, I'm the odd one out in the Lively family because I don't have a music degree. And my grandfather, he was all about music. He was a band teacher, and I don't know if he has a master's or a doctorate, but he owned a music store in Detroit for many years. And he brought his kids up in music. And my dad is a phenomenal multi instrumentalist who is like disgustingly and annoyingly good at different things. It's like, oh, you've never seen that instrument, you're gonna pick it up and play it. I hate you. There are so many people like that. It's like, oh crap, why are you so talented? So my dad's like that, and my cousins are like that. I have cousins who are also band teachers now and things like that. And I'm the one who kind of fell off after high school and didn't pursue it professionally or educationally. So I kind of attacked it a different way, very different way, but still involved. I mean, is still in there. I'm not teaching kids how to play trombone though. So
Yeah, well, and you were mentioning that you got into like the post-hardcore scene, and
mhm.
that I only know a bit about like post-hardcore rock, metal, all those kind of quote unquote heavier genres, or like
Yeah.
you know amplified concerts. I know about them as a listener, as I play guitar, and I have friends
Mhm.
who are drummers and bassists and guitarists in that industry.
Yeah.
But how was it just like you had friends in the scene?
Yeah. Some of the nicest, like as a whole, I just have to preface that metal bands, post-hardcore bands, some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Um, I don't really look the part all the time, but if you go back way back, I tried. There was black lipstick at least one time. But no, I actually, so a lot of people don't know this. I don't really talk about this very often, but I was with someone who was a professional bass player in a band, in a post-hardcore band. We got together when I was like 16, and I'd already graduated high school because I graduated when I was 15. And I was with him for about 5 years. We were actually married, and that's my introduction, how I started getting involved in touring. And then on a local level, when I settled back down in Petoskey and stuff, um, all of my friends were musicians. So I started helping out where I could, and eventually uh, met the Accidentals. I'd known them, but met them in the right way to go on tour with them and build that relationship. And I was managing Jake Allen at the time, and he was about to go on a full European tour, and he didn't need me because it was like a full Takamine thing where you get over there, they have their own people. That doesn't really cross over a lot. And he was like, "Well, I know who would need you. You'd be great in that camp." So he actually introduced me to that opportunity. Um, so yeah, it's interesting, like having the different skills, and then the knowledge of touring. Photography was um, a huge one. How I worked myself in the door a lot when I was starting out was offering to shoot. So I found out that if you ask, they'll usually say yes. That's one thing I remember. Like when I moved to Grand Rapids, uh, I just started asking like all of the major bands who came through town if I could go shoot and stuff, and built some relationships that way. And then everything kind of, you know, did its thing, and we're here now. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, just having those different skills to be able to offer people and fill in the gap, no matter what it might be. I think having an eclectic professional background has helped me be able to do that. And when I don't know something, I know enough professionals now where I can ask and someone will teach me, which goes back to like the whole mantra of ask for what you need, which Amber Bice from the Accidentals has taught me. Um, so yeah, just developing those different skill sets kind of put me in different positions where I could ask more questions and then get more opportunities.
Yeah, the people underestimate, you know, having the having the skills, and then just the power of asking, like
Yeah.
seeing it, what's going on, who you could play with, you know, what you might need from, another person who might be skilled in something else. Like there's no like I feel like there is that initial hesitation for a lot of people of like, oh, I don't want, what if they say no? And it's like that's the only.
That's the same position you're in right now, you know.
Yeah, it's like that's all you that's what yeah, that's what
Mhm.
you started with. So it's important to just feel like you know that you need things, and don't be afraid to ask certain things, and also know when, I don't know, when like you have more of an informed way of asking something. Like, oh, you ask something, you get knowledge, you build off the knowledge, then you're able to have an ask
Yeah.
that might have a little more weight or a little bit more specificity behind it than just like, I need help.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we all need help, but specifically what? um, yeah, and so you were touring with the Accidentals for 2 years, or was that a little longer? Or
Uh, it's a little gray because of the pandemic. I did a solid year as their full-time tour manager,
okay,
which included one European tour. Um, and then pandemic. And then this year, I'll be with them for whatever shows they choose to perform live.
yeah, but I was thinking like this time is it, you really see who's got the resources to pick back up and start doing some things again, or who
Hmm.
has a small enough group. I feel like small groups have a little bit of an advantage to get, they get on the same page a little quicker and what everyone is comfortable doing in these
Yeah,
circumstances.
definitely. I feel like a lot of acts have kind of used the time as a respite to reevaluate a lot of priorities and restructure the group and what the goals are and the long-term plan. And a lot of people have used the time to really dive in and, take different avenues that maybe they wouldn't have had time to take together before. So I think everyone's kind of dealt with it in different ways out of necessity. And um, the Accidentals are one who, they're like, oh my God, it sucks, but we get a free year to write a whole album and do all this different stuff that we want to do. Like, I mean, I looked at it that way too, I guess, is like, okay, well, we can't do anything right now. So why not just create a bunch of content? And that's been really interesting to watch the Accidentals hone in on their live streaming because we rarely did that before the pandemic. We live stream live shows once in a while for Patreon, but really it's definitely like a whole new ball game than it was before because of the pandemic, and they've kind of taken that under, and Sav is now, I mean, they were on the Recording Academy, panel for live streaming, and Sav has written tutorials for OBS and StreamYard and all kinds of different things. And that's just another avenue of diversifying like what you're good at and what skills you have, and making those turn into opportunities to be able to get yourself out there in different ways. And that's been interesting. I've been really proud of them for not being scared of it because they didn't know anything about it, but jumping in. And I think that's the obstacle a lot of artists have, is if you don't know about something and it seems intimidating, you might kind of back off. Like even bringing up copywriting and publishing last month with our B-side session, that's something a lot of people can't define exactly what that means because it's a scary subject. It's a big, those are big topics and there's a lot to understand. So I think a lot of people used the free time to kind of dig in and get a handle on those things and be more confident about what their skill sets are. So that's been fun to watch.
Yeah, and I get to like, because that was one thing I was always trying to think of with Earth Radio. Like we put out Reanimate. It could have been a little bit better in terms of how it was organized, but overall, like the album came out. We had some good reception on it. We worked with Anima Media Group to kind of help push it out for playlisting
Yeah.
and other stuff. And
And it's a gorgeous album. I mean, that record, I feel like every record you guys put out is such a snapshot of where you all are in that moment. And I, I think like I love seeing your whole discography like kind of grow steadily. It's been fun to watch.
yeah, I like that's one thing I always like about the band is we're good at seeing a creative idea through to the end of, even if there's, like restructuring of like the overall presentation or like how we think thematically songs fit together. Um,
Hmm.
it's that's something that, 3 albums in, it's like we know how to do that. And
Yeah.
and the one thing I'm hoping for this year is, as I've been doing the Patreon stuff. I'm going to be getting back into more video work other than just, the podcasting stuff. And Hannah's got her, Patreon and the things that she does. You know, there's a level of like, everyone's kind of had these different skill sets they've built or things they've kind of pushed to the side, like, oh, we don't need to worry about that. Like, what's live streaming? And it's like, we could have been building a studio like, Desmond Jones or something. Like they just have a whole like with switchers and cameras.
Those guys are crazy, man.
Yeah.
They just go for it.
Yeah, I'm like they went for it, and I caught their stream the other night because I was curious, and they they have it set up to, you see everyone in the band. It's not just a fixed camera. There's, the audio it always improves each stream. Like there's a better balance of everything. They have that element of being in the same room to do something live and interact with fans. They have someone who like helps, moderate the chat so
Yeah.
get answered, and
Yeah.
feel like
It's well done.
yeah, and that's something I've always enjoyed about people who are able to like, run an operation from their bedroom.
Yeah, and like live streams are hard. There's no one clapping. There's no audience reaction that's tangible in the moment. It's like playing to a brick wall.
Yeah.
And that's something when we went and did the oh my gosh, the Ann Arbor Folk Fest at the Arc last month with the Accidentals and Kim Ritchie, and we had Aaron Zindel and Jordan Hamilton on the set as well. I took my 3-year-old daughter's big blow up yellow and red donkey. It's called like a roadie, and you like jump on it. It's ridiculous looking. They're like it's like a classic kid's toy. And it's like big, right? And it looks ridiculous. And it's this big yellow blow up donkey. And I duct taped him under the main camera because I was like, you don't know where, like, you have to look at the camera or it's like you're ignoring the audience. And people don't think about that, it's like it's not the same. You have to treat it like you're playing to one person. And so in efforts to make sure that they focus on the camera, if you watched that stream, you'll understand why there's some eye contact, is because Rhodey was he was duct taped under the main camera with glow lights around his neck to capture attention. So it's interesting, like finding little ways like that to make live streams more interactive. I mean, like Seth Bernard, for example, does an amazing job curating his live streaming and interacting with people, because it doesn't matter how many views or how many likes you have. It matters how many comments you have, because your engagement is that's what it's about. And you're all these Instagram influencers and stuff now, it doesn't really matter how many followers you have. How engaged are your followers? You can make a living with 100 really engaged fans. It's interesting, like the quality over quantity aspect, and how that's really been highlighted during the live streaming takeoff has been interesting.
Yeah, because I've been following like people who've they figured out Patreon early, or they have a live streaming component, and they've figured out a way to have that audience that even if there's like 1,000 people in a chat and it seems like it's flying by,
Yeah.
to, like have enough people engaged, or like kind of learn those tricks to kind of have an aggregate response of like, I think of like, video games streams, they'd have like, oh, I died, like put F's in the chat for the fallen character or something, and then you just see a bunch of F's, and it's like, okay, people are listening.
Yeah.
It's like, it might look just like a weird spam thing, but it's still people feeling like, oh,
Engaged.
they're
Yeah.
interacting, and some people might sub because of that, or they might, buy a shirt,
Yeah.
or who knows, like share the
It's
stream or
it's really interesting. Like, I mean, seeing different bands kind of find their place with it. And like Billy Strings is doing some really cool stuff with his live streams and getting audiences engaged in different ways that way. And then of course there's, Fish is like before the pandemic happened, when I was out in St. Louis with Fish, and there's like Tech Week and everything, and I dug into how their live streaming works through Nugsnet and all of that. And they have an app now and a whole, I mean, they're like the kings of live streaming, right? They and seeing how all of that works and like the different ways that they use their fan experience um, before the pandemic, it's been really interesting because now you see a lot of people paying attention to that now and adopting those models, and finding different ways to make it feel like you're getting an exclusive experience that no one else is. It's been interesting to see everybody like find their own niche with it.
yeah, and I think that's where, like, when people first started streaming last year for the first time, they thought like, okay, I'm just gonna do what I normally do, just in
Like
front of.
replicate a live show, just throw a webcam on there, and you can't do that.
Yeah, it's like there's, aside from even just like how everything's routed and stuff, just the differences in how you approach playing for a camera, a virtual audience, or like even the presentation. Like there's so many
Hmm.
things you can do with, overlays or like effects or things that you couldn't
Yeah.
do in a normal live setting too, that some people have tried, some people have, you know, built a way to present themselves in a unique way that makes it compelling to tune into a stream even after they're, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll go see them live, but I love like how the stream is set up for X, Y, and Z, or, the convenience of it all. And
It's been fun too. Like I've put together a couple shows where like one for, well, we did two for Michigan Music Alliance where it was singer-songwriters in the round virtually. And to have more than one person on the live stream and taking turns playing and like talking about each other's songs and seeing that interaction is something I think that a lot of, you know, it's hard to watch a guy and a guitar for like 30 minutes on a live stream because it's going to be a little bit the same every week. And it's there's a lack of, like, you don't have anyone to banter with. Your band isn't there and you're playing to a completely silent audience. And to see the aspect of multiple people on the screen interacting and talking to each other and creating a different show every time has been something I definitely want to see more of. That collaboration aspect live for virtual shows is really cool to me.
yeah, and some people were, I was talking with some folks who, you know, they I get the people who, haven't embraced live streaming yet because they've never had to think about it until recently. But I've
Hmm.
seen, like, being following the video game space and seeing, the advent of all the different like virtual reality things that are
Yeah.
in their still in its infancy, but like I was hearing different industry people talking with different tech people on like podcasts about
Yeah.
how, it is, there could be a possibility in the future, like let's say, it's hard for you to get to a concert because maybe it's not,
Yeah.
accessible in some way, or it's overstimulating or something, to
The
have,
virtual reality technology for concerts.
yeah, like to have like
Yeah.
this weird unique experience where you could like put on a virtual reality helmet and, like, depending on the budget for a show, you could zip between different camera views or like have a
Yeah.
first person view of the from the stage. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
bands have been doing like, you know, like even so, I think of like videos bands make where they clip, like a GoPro to the end of a bass, and then
Hmm.
that footage is cut in with like a drum cam, and then like sometimes singers put a mic cam where every time they lift the mic, it points out to the crowd. And
And like the 360 cameras for live streaming are really cool to me too. I don't know if you've seen any of like Dua Lipa's live streams. but the fact that you're in a circle, like it's really cool. It's completely different than anything, anyone else is doing right now. And it's really interesting how creative people can get with these different tools. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it speaks to, like, when so many parts of how, people conduct their lives, or how different, careers or certain businesses, like certain things that are like really hard to be flexible with, like artists
Mhm.
always find a way to, like, see what's in their space, who's in their community, who's in their circle, and just like make something
Make
work.
it work. Yeah,
So
yeah,
crazy.
it's interesting. That's one of the cool things I think about being like in a community of people who think like that, because things happen that wouldn't happen otherwise. And um yeah, it's really been a pleasure to try to give people more tools to be able to do those things. And um at some point, I know we'll do a session about live streaming performance, and stuff like that. So it'll be fun. Hopefully, we won't have to do as many live streams, but in the future, hopefully we can go back to doing some live performances as things are safe. But I know a lot of people prefer it now, so um, we'll see what happens. And hopefully this summer we can get outside and get back to normal a little bit.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to doing more things outdoors again, and also just having, I think, even if, you as, I think about Earth Radio, like, even if we never do anything virtual, which I don't think would be the case, because I think we could do some cool stuff virtual, but there's always that skill for me in the back pocket, to just, be able to connect things, share it with people in, like, all around. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
where they are, it doesn't matter what country or time zone. It's just like, this is going to be viewable by somebody after the fact.
yeah. You've made yourself mobile
Yes.
for touring. You are tour ready.
Tour ready for, yeah, because I was doing that a little bit before. Like in 2019, I would stream, I streamed
Yeah,
24th Street, our Chicago shows, like just anywhere I could set up a tripod,
yeah.
just like, look.
And that was really cool for like, people who can get to the show. I remember watching some of those and really enjoying seeing like, yeah, and you were right on your keyboard or whatever too. So like you're right on stage, and it's a fun perspective that we didn't get to see a lot, before live streaming took off this year. So it's I always enjoyed those.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot of different things.
Yeah, yeah. We went all over a little bit. But yeah. Main takeaway, I mean, the Michigan Arts Relief Fund will be relaunched in the spring. We'll have information on michiganmusicalliance.org about how all of that will work, if people are interested. And Spread the Music, again, that's March 25th or 24th through 28th on our Facebook page, Michigan Music Alliance. So we're really excited and hope people tune in for that and share it with their friends and get engaged. And we're excited to bring new programming. We're restructuring a lot of things for the fall, so we're excited about that. We've got 2 B-side sessions coming up, the last 2 of the season. So we have promotion, and we're going to be talking about a lot of radio, and that is on March 8th at 7 p.m. live on Zoom webinars. Information on our Facebook page and website. And then also we have our most popular session, which is repeated from last year, is festivals. We're going to be talking about Michigan festivals, and we have representatives from most of the major Michigan festivals with us, and that'll be moderated by John Sinkovich from Local Spins. So that is on April 12th at 7 p.m. again on Zoom webinars. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. And yeah, for those listening now or after the fact, if you enjoy conversations like these, you can head on over to patreon.com/Dutcher Snedeker. There you can, get early episodes of podcasts, early access to streams for these kind of conversations, and you can throw money at me to teach you something, a consultation or recording. It's all kind of baked into the Patreon. But yeah.
Baked into your Patreon casserole.
my very flavorful casserole of
Yes.
I do.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. This is good. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about. I mean, not that we didn't this time.
Yeah.
Even more to talk about.
Yeah, we always have stuff to talk about. So, yeah.